mechanically because I want to answer that man's question. This line can only touch the sub from here. There's only one point where it can touch the sub. So like you say, if you do it mechanically, you have this, and then you just balance the ruler to touch. You should get the same point because it can only touch the circle where at one point. So, but I don't think I need to do it mechanically. But just to prove it, you find that it's there. People who are drawing, has it touched? Or it has entered inside? It has entered anyhow. And the same. But the communication. Now that's involving only one circle. What if there are two circles? Then the word common can come in. Common tangents, meaning it is touching two. This is where we have the remaining four parts for us today. And the easiest part is part A. Common. Skipped it in the notes because it is quite direct. Can be following from here. Common external tangent. Two equal circles. In the notes we started with the internal. This one wasn't talked about because two direct as in this. So we shall use a simple example of two circles which are equal. Construct a common external. We shall see the difference between external and internal. External tangent. The circle below. People who are drawing normally, they just directly start drawing. You may not need first to sketch the circle. Those who are using sketches, you can first sketch. So, where A and B are the centers, if they are equal, we shall consider same radius. Let's see, start it. Then the difference, how far are the centers apart? You can use some simple, you can even use 80. Fine. So we are using the simple question like that. It's not in our notes, the soft copy notes that we have. Because it is too simplified. Members who are doing about 4 I normally use this. Those who are sketching, because they are always like far. Now, how would you first come up with the part of copying the question? I think you will agree with me, like the previous number, it may be important to first draw the line. The line AB, which is 8.5 centimeters. After drawing the line, you can now put in the two circles. Using center A, first circle, using center B, then another circle. Now you are already imagining there is a line, because when you say external, it's starting from the same side of the circle like that. Or it's either up or down. So you can see that man used a good word. Mechanically, if you are to draw a line to touch both circles, meaning common, that line must be at the top. Since the circles are equal, would you think it should be at the top of the circle? Here and there. After all, the circles have the same radius. So if the line is to touch from the top here and the top there, the contact points are what is that top part, what is that top part. So we simply construct 90 degrees to get that top part. Maybe C. And 90 degrees At B, get the topmost point of the circle, which is D. Then the answer is the line CD. The answer is the line CD. That becomes the tangent. No, it is not in the notes, but you can easily get the tangent. You construct 90 degrees at each of the centers. Where the line meets the circle, call it C. Where the line meets the circle, call it D. And then you draw the tangent. Make sure the circles are equal. If they are not equal, this method does not work if the circles are not equal. Guess what is coming next? If we have common external, then definitely we need to have common internal. Internal now will take the other direction. You just pick at it from down going up, either this direction or the opposite direction. So this one is external. Then the next is internal. We are still dealing with the circles which are equal. Circles which are equal. Let's get a simple example here. I'm going to add just one distance only. I can adjust both. This is A and this is center B. This is just 25. It's important to make AB slightly longer. The distance apart between the two centers, you can use 9.5. And then let us use these two. Now that's the one you have in the notes. By just looking at the tangent that you want to draw, which is either this direction or the opposite direction, it is very clear that these points you are searching for, the contact points, definitely they can no longer be here. Now that the tangent is moving in a diagonal way, it means those points are shifting to around here, and also they are also shifting to position around here for the second circle. So the question is, how do you determine 2 points? And that's what we are going to do. Can you set up the question? Start with the line. Those who are drawing, first draw AB. Then draw the 2 circles using the same radius 25. Then now what I would call my first step. Step 1. If you're still behind, you can just listen. Step 1 is to bisect AB. Give us point C. Let's call this point C. Bisect the distance AB. Now this one, even if you're not drawing, when you set note down, just something very small besides your sketch. Like step 1, just put a dash, bisect AB. That's enough. you will know that you bisect the distance. I want to move with the people who are doing practice. I cannot just speak here. Step 2 is also to bisect. Now the second step, you can either bisect SC or CB to give us D. So you can note down that to get D, we have again bisected the distance BC. You will see, depending on how you want to draw the tangent, it is possible to either bisect from the left or bisect from the right, like that. So step 2 is to bisect the distance BC. Bisect BC, this other small distance BC. Get that line and get point D. Bisect BC. So in the short, we bisect twice. Bisect the original distance between the centers, then bisect again distance between the center and one of the other, and one of the bisectors. Now, what is the purpose of the second? Why do we bisect for the second time? This is where we get the contact point from. Now, depending on the way you want to draw, if you want to draw it running from right, let's say with a negative gradient, we do mark, moving that direction. We can draw semicircle, so that's the use of this D here. You can draw semicircle either below or above. If you want it to move like this, draw semicircle below. Use point D and draw semicircle. Immediately, the semicircle will give you the first contact point, which is E. Call that point E. That is where the tangent is going to touch on this side. Remember to apostrophe, just copy. You are the ones who set the face. Because the ones who are sketching are not measured. They are just doing the one doing there. Those who are holding the compass, so as we wait for them to reach there, members who are taking the work in sketch 4, you can always spare some time and construct some, because you may say this is too obvious, but let me construct this and this, such that you don't take a lot of time without checking on your drawing. Because for us, this is the only education we need. Talk about discussions, maybe one of you stands in front here, and you start doing what I'm doing here. Maybe that's a discussion. Now, you want to get the second contact point, because this line is going to run like this. But you already have this one here. There is no need for you to again bisect E, semicircle to get another contact point. There is no need to repeat this. Instead, get the distance between C and E. Because remember, C is the middle of this and this. So get the distance between C and E and mark it on this circle. Normally in our notes here, our footnotes, you can just say CE. This speaks a lot. CE is equal to CF. You realize that this can save you a lot, because you may look at this work after some time. You see everything connecting, but there is this F, where did it come from? But when you just put this somewhere, you will see, okay, CE is equal to CF, so I just marked that. So the answer now is EF. This is the tangent. Finally, draw that tangent, the tangent. The one you have there in the notes, you can always read through in case you did not. Also, that leaves us with only 2 to summarize our tangent. We have been talking about equal circles, but there's a situation when one circle is bigger than the other. Yes. point F. This is, I want you to put this below. Are you sketching or you are doing drawing? This is the formula for locating F. So in other words, you're going to put this in the compass. Put your compass between C and E. After that, still leave your compass at C, then mark off F. So you write this formula somewhere. It is very crucial. Sometimes when you're looking through your work, you need a reminder of how this F comes about. That takes us to part C. Now, using that language, you can use another one. Two unequal. Or you can use the longer sentence. To two circles which are not equal. Something like that. And now we shall just break down our examples. Construct a common. Understanding to the circle below. We are going to make one circle bigger than the other, but we shall retain most of the things of in AB, as usual, at the center. Let us use the radius 35 and maybe the radius 15. Then the distance apart, you can use that. You are going to observe something. The method that worked for two equal circles can no longer work. And it may be a bit clear to understand. Good enough breathing is good here. The circles were equal. And we saw that logically, a common tangent, since the circles are equal, would be at the top. Now, this one has decreased. What's going to happen to this contact point? Don't you think it's going to shift a little bit? Because this circle is smaller, the tangent which is now falling from a higher place to a lower place will shift from here up to a certain point here. Then on the small circle, it will also fall somewhere on the right. So that's the reason why the methods for equal circles do not work when circles are not equal. So those who are drawing, I just hope you are not leaving you behind. You are the ones to set the pace. Because literally we are supposed to be drawing during the lecture. If you are here copying, then that's okay. This is the one you have just finished. This first one is the one which we may try to eat on our times life. Because there is one small thing that we all need to learn. There is a concept we need to learn here, the way we hold our instruments. But I will illustrate it very fast because the moment I saw there are about 5 people who can do it, then it's very okay. But I will first illustrate it here. So, let us first draw the two circles, beginning with the line AB. So you always first do the setup the way it is. Let's learn to copy questions the way they are given, especially following these dimensions. 35, 15, and then 100. So step 1 is to draw the given circles and the line. Step 2, bisect AB, and immediately I've done 2 steps in one. One is to bisect, and the purpose of bisecting is to get the point that will help you to draw a semicircle. Whenever you look at your work and there's a semicircle, it means at some point you first identify the center. And I don't encourage you to just measure. and then you put there. You bisect. Bisect, then do the same circle. Bisect AB, do the same circle. For purposes of explaining the next step, I will request you to name some 2 points here. Let's focus on C. That point, then we call this one E. After bisecting, you name those 2 points. One on the small circle, one on the big circle. These 2 points which I've just named normally help us to get another point called E. So I will suggest 2 ways of getting this point E. The first one will look like this. If you want to get point E, just make sure that BC is equal to DE. Now, if you wrote this one somewhere in your notes, how would you use this one to get E? Let's assume E is not there. How would you use this information to get E? It is simply picking the radius of the small circle, then moving to point D and locating E. That step very clear, members. So sometimes people get twisted on that point E. But if you have this, you cannot make a mistake. And we shall be using E to draw another small circle inside here with the center O. So I will give 2 alternatives for getting this small circle. Either you look for E using this formula. 2 alternatives to get this small circle or to get point E. You either use the formula I have used here, get BC, mark inside to get E, or use mathematics. Simply subtract the radius of the big circle minus radius of the small circle is equal to the radius of this inside circle. It's the same thing. Just subtract the 2 radii. The answer you get, use it to go the small circle. So you can either do that, note it down mathematically, or use this. Just pick this, put it inside. As you're putting it inside, you are subtracting the radius of the big circle minus the radius of the small circle. I'm overlaying on that E because normally when you see this, when it's already drawn, the questions that come to me, you already say, where did I get this from? This one you cannot ask because you already see it is the same circle, you know. The problem is, where did the small circle come from? Or where did the point E come from? So those are the 2 answers I'm putting. Either use the formula or subtract. Okay, we are moving towards the end of this number. People who are doing, have you done the small circle? Step, like 1 step behind, do the same circle. Drawing this circle is using the difference between the 2 radii. If you want to use that one, make sure you note it somewhere. And the radius of the inside circle is good by subtracting. What is the difference between the 2 radii? 35 minus 15. So the radius of this inside one is 20 also. You subtract 35 minus 15.
See, when you use subtracting,
you mean right? By the way, in doing our work, don't explain. When you are drawing this lesson, you present. You don't need to explain anything. It is meant to follow your work. Even the things I'm putting, B, C, D, E, A, are for explanation. If you know how to construct the tangent, just construct and stop there. So, to get point E, you said you can either use this simple formula that BC is equal to DE. That is one. Okay? Or you can just subtract. Which one do you think you can easily remember? Say this one or the subtraction?
That one.
May depend. But choose one of them. They arrive at the same answer. So So the challenge is normally this small circle, we forget where it came from. That's why I've given those two options. Then finally, how do we use the small circle? Because it's not there just for the sake. Many times you see somebody doing this work and the small circle is there but he has not used it. If you have not used it, then it is useless. If you have it there, then it must be doing something for you. And this is the purpose. Check where that small circle intersects the semicircle. I mean where this one meets this one. That point. You have that point? We are calling it F. This is equal to D. You've not named anything. Now it will be difficult.
No, I tried to follow, but I tried to draw it when after drawing the circle.
The small one.
Yeah. DE will not be equal to this unless you pass one.
No, put this one.
This is it.
And for you, use the here. You're supposed to use it. Let's see the point. This there. Exactly. Is it ready straight? Yeah. Very good. Now, we are here. We are calling this point F. Now, in the work, it is possible to see that in the notes they may not have used a complete circle, but you may prefer using a complete circle. It makes it very clear to see all the things we're talking about. But if I just use an arc I will use in the second one, such that the arc will be very clear. But now this small thing here is preferred drawing a full circle. It doesn't mean that one was drawn an arc is wrong. It's still right because all we want is F. How do you use F? Now, the next step is just a ruler. Get a ruler. Can you draw a line from A, passing through F, to touch the original circle at this point, which you are calling G? Get a ruler. Listen, get a ruler. Draw a line which passes through A, F, and extend it upwards. Now, when it meets the original circle, the point where they meet is the one I'm calling G. By the way, G is the first contact point. So get a ruler and a pencil. Draw a line from A carefully, passing through F to meet this circle at G. Now, without summarizing the things very fast, the problem is the next part. Let me see how fast you can get it. Who has a big set square? Those who are doing drawing for the first time, this is one of the most common things we do. It is called sliding of instruments. Sliding involves a set square. That thing you used to throw away used to be useless. It has become now the most useful. Set square and a ruler. And what's the purpose of sliding is to get a line parallel to one line which you have. If I have a line like this, like now I have AG, AFG. I want to get another line parallel on the other side. Now it is a set square to help me to slide this one to the other side. So I will slightly darten your set square, that is for purposes of study. Now I need the ruler which is a bit long. I saw some with the T-square. Let me use the T-square, I think it is more flat. Of course, in your book, like that. But remember, when you are sliding, there are some few principles you need to follow. If you are a learner, get me the bigger set square. There is one which is 60, 30, the one which is longer than this. You have both. There is a bigger one. Hey, this is mine. Get me the second one. Now remember, even there in your books, this set square will be more useful. This one which has 30, 60, 90. And the part of the set square, especially if you're a learner, is this one. It is very easy to use this one when you're learning. Then later when you get used, you can use any side. Now, this is the part that you put on the line that you have. The line that you have is LG. You put it in line like that. That means when you're going to slide members, don't hold the two things at once unless you already know. If you are learning, first balance the set square on the line edge. Only the set square, leave the ruler. If you're balanced and this part of the set square is in line with AG, then you pull out the ruler. If it is a long one, even the better. Pull out the ruler and let the set square sit. You see how they are seated? Now when they are seated like this, I would advise you to put more pressure on the ruler and relax the hand which is holding the set square to allow the set square to move freely. So you press the ruler. Are you pressing the ruler? It should not move, but it is the set square to move freely. My right hand is so relaxed that the left hand is pressing hard. So those are some of the dynamics. Now the challenge I have, my ruler is short. This flat edge here is supposed to go up to center B. Now, if I'm still accurate, I can still hold them from here and I adjust the ruler. But for you, I would encourage you to slide once from here up to this side. Mine are not yet there. So again, I adjust for you to slide once. Now the moment you reach B, before you do, make sure the set square is still seated on the ruler, intact, no space, okay? But remember, you have two hands. You're not going to tell your neighbor that now you do that. So what do? Once they are intact like this, we can release the ruler slowly while this hand is still here. Then you pick the pencil. First hold this properly, it should not move. Pick the pencil. In this case, for me, I'm using the what? Piece of chalk. That's the principle of sliding. Practice that principle. It's one of the common things we use when we want to get barrel lines. Proceed here if you don't want to get confused. First hold this one. When you hold it both, you're likely to make a mistake unless you already know. So you hold this one first, balance it, then it allows the ruler to sit down, then press the ruler, only move this. Make the hand flexible, don't tear the book that you're sliding with. Just make sure you can move smoothly till when this surface reaches here, and then you go. This line will be parallel too. Thank you very much. That and the things that we are using to study. So that's the only thing which has delayed us. What is the time? What's the time?
36%.
You have tried, because we have one more number. The other side I was very slow. This is now H, the second contact point. Since they are parallel, can you use this to show that they are parallel? There you can remember that these lines were supposed to be parallel. So the second contact point is H. The first one is G, making the answer GH. Please make sure this. The fact that you know that there are about 4 or 5 who did this will be very easy to illustrate to you in case you've forgotten how to hold it. And remember, once you learn, you know that you can hold the set square in any format as long as it is doing here. Alright. Then the last, we go out for minute. We try to use the minutes, but it is this part. So the last one. Part D, we are editing this question, changing the word external to internal. Changing the word external to internal. The rest can easily remain the way they are. Maybe let me reduce this one to 30. So our last is here, call it a day. But if there is any question with why you cannot heap a lot of pressure in the last few days is this one. Because this one, if you need to say you're sending notes, how would they help? Let you know some things are like this. Because okay, those who know may fall, but it becomes very complicated. It's easier when you have at least talked about it, then you see it was. That's why I requested you to stay behind and we do some So, can we do the last one? Have you finished sliding?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Does it touch very well?
Yes.
So let us set up. I'm changing something here. the last one for today. Still one circle is bigger than the other. The question is here. We can write it in full. I've edited it. I've changed the word external to internal. Now we have point A here. Then we have the second circle. And point B here. Now, there's a certain advantage. The advantage of this last one here, there are many steps which are similar. Is this one and this one. So I'll just be putting some comparison. But instead of putting this point here, the mark here. So just like the first number, we shall also bisect and do a semicircle. That one is similar. And we shall also name these points in the same way. C and then E. The changes are going to start from here. The way we get E, the formula remains the same, but the E will be located in the opposite side. So BC is still equal to DE. By this time, the BC is equal to DE, the E will be marked out. Remember the tangent which is coming is no longer on top, it is now cutting like this diagonally. So that's why it's going to push us to adjust some of the things here. Formula remains the same. Just that E is marked on the opposite side, not inside but outside. That's the first thing to note, is the location of point E. Point E is on the outside. Those who are sketching, which will put point E in the right place. What is interesting is that the purpose of E here is going to be the same purpose of E there. The way we use E. The same way we're going to use E here. Members who are drawing how far you are set by safety in the circle. And as the more you go to that campus, the more the fingers get used, the hands get used. And later, it will not be a problem. Whenever it comes to drawing, you easily hold and draw. The more you hold those instruments, the more you slide, the more comfortable you become with sliding. These things you can learn them immediately to avoid filing pressure on the other course units, which are very difficult to understand. Now, how do we use E? Here we use the E to draw the circle. Now here, we shall also use E, but we shall not need to complete the whole circle. Don't want anything to exactly look like this, to be confusing. That's why here, if I've drawn with the full circle, here I can just do an arc. So get center A, open up to E, draw an arc. Instead of a full circle, an arc is enough. So where this one intersects that one, we had called it F. First follow that one. Still that circle which has E intersected, and we also call that point F. So there are no similarities. The purpose of this is the same purpose of the other one, only that the other one is here. Members who are doing, we are going to summarize to show you behind. Because at least most of the things are the same. People who are drawing, have you located in the right position? And have you used AP? Draw this. Where it casts the semicircle, you can call it F. Then again reflect there. How did you use the line AF? What was the purpose of AF in the first number? No, in the previous number. How do we use AF?
To find G.
To find G.
Yes.
Now we're also going to use AF to find G, but this time G will be found backwards, like this.
Yes.
So still G is here. Remember the tangent you are drawing this time is diagonal, so it pushes the other G from this position to you've used AF to get G. Here you've joined AF to get G. Finally, for today, this step must be the same. How did we use that line AFG? You slide it. That means we need to slide again. But this time when you slide, it will be drawn downwards. You can use the last few minutes to slide. And we shall get H, and that will be the end for today. So the answer becomes the line G.
H.
The tangent. So as I was mentioning last time, even if you are seated in this class and not drawing, you're not the same as somebody who stayed away also. You at least, for you, you have an idea. Even if you just put the notes now, then you start with. For purposes of practice, when you're free and you don't feel like reading the hard things, you can just get your set and play.